I opened my front door on what should have been an ordinary Friday night, and there she was. Madison, my ex-girlfriend. The woman I had not seen or heard from in 2.5 years, standing on my doorstep, in the rain holding a baby. My heart stopped. She looked exhausted, her eyes red and swollen, her hair plastered to her face. The baby, maybe 6 months old, was bundled in a blue blanket, sleeping peacefully against her chest. She looked straight at me and said 5 words that made my blood run cold. "We need to talk. This is your son." I stood there frozen, unable to process what was happening. We had broken up 2.5 years ago. We had not spoken since the night I discovered her affair. And now she was here with a baby, claiming he was mine. Before I tell you what happened that night, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. If you have ever dealt with an ex who crossed boundaries you never thought possible, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story gets wild. Let me take you back to how we got here. I met Madison 5 years ago at a small coffee shop in Portland. I was a software engineer, she was a graphic designer, and we hit it off immediately. We talked for 3 hours straight that first day about art, music, and our dreams of traveling the world. Our first date was at a tiny concert venue downtown, and I knew right then she was special. We dated for 3 years, and they were good years. We made plans, real plans. We talked about buying a house together, getting married, having kids someday. I introduced her to my parents, my friends, everyone who mattered to me. We took road trips down the California coast, went camping at Mount Hood, stayed up late talking about our future. I genuinely believed Madison was the one. I even bought an engagement ring and hid it in my dresser drawer, waiting for the perfect moment to propose. But then things started to change. Madison began working late more often. She became distant. Her phone was always face down on the table, and she changed her passcode without telling me. She stopped talking about her day, stopped asking about mine. When I asked if everything was okay, she said she was just stressed with a new project at work. I believed her because I wanted to. My friends noticed the change too. They asked if I thought something was wrong, and I defended her every time. I told them she was just going through a rough patch. I told myself the same thing. One night, everything fell apart. Madison had left her laptop at my place, and a message notification popped up on the screen. It was from a guy named Kyle. The message said, "Cannot wait to see you tonight, beautiful." My hands started shaking. I knew I should not look, but I could not stop myself. I opened her laptop. I still knew her password from months before. What I found destroyed me. Messages going back 6 months. An affair with Kyle, her senior creative director at work. The messages were intimate, detailed, full of plans to leave me. One message from Madison to Kyle stood out. She wrote, "He is so clueless. I will tell him soon, I promise." When Madison came home that night, I confronted her. I showed her the messages. She did not even try to deny it. She just looked at me with this cold expression and said, "I fell out of love with you." She said Kyle gave her things I could not. Excitement, passion, a future. I asked her about the engagement ring I was planning to give her. She said I would have said no anyway. Those words cut deeper than anything else. She packed her things that same night and left. Her last words to me were, "Do not contact me. I am starting over." I sat alone in that apartment, heartbroken, feeling like my entire world had collapsed. The next 3 months were the darkest of my life. I barely ate. I lost 20 pounds. My work performance tanked. I unfriended Madison and Kyle on every social media platform and blocked their numbers. My best friend Trevor practically dragged me out of my apartment, forced me to go to the gym, made me start therapy. Slowly, week by week, I started to heal. My therapist helped me understand that the betrayal was not my fault. Madison made her choice, and I had to accept it and move forward. A year later, I took a job in Seattle. It was a promotion to senior engineer with better pay, and it felt like a fresh start. I found a great apartment with a view of Puget Sound. I started dating again cautiously at first, but I was putting myself out there. I focused on my career, picked up new hobbies like hiking and photography, even started learning guitar. 2.5 years after the breakup, I had genuinely moved on. I had not thought about Madison in months. My life was stable, peaceful, and happy. Then came that Friday night in October. It was raining outside. I had just ordered pizza and was planning to watch the football game. The doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there she was. Madison stood there drenched from the rain, holding a baby I had never seen before. My mind went blank. I could not move. I could not speak. She looked up at me with those same eyes I used to know so well and asked, "Can I come in?" "Please. It is important." Against every instinct screaming at me to shut the door, I let her in. That was my first mistake. She walked into my living room and sat down on my couch, the baby still sleeping in her arms. She took a deep breath and said, "This is Jackson. He is 6 months old." Then she paused, looked me right in the eye, and added, "He is yours, Beaumont." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I said, "That is impossible. We broke up 2.5 years ago." Madison nodded slowly and said, "Remember that last week before I left, we were still together. You know." My mind started racing doing the math, trying to remember. I distinctly recalled that we had not been intimate for months before the breakup. Our relationship had been cold and distant long before it ended. I told her that. She shook her head and insisted, "You were drunk that night. You do not remember." But I would have remembered. I know I would have. She pulled out her phone and showed me photos of Jackson. "Look at his eyes," she said. "They are exactly like yours." I looked at the baby. He did have dark brown eyes like mine, but that was where the similarities ended. His nose was different. His hair was lighter. Nothing else matched. I asked the question that had been burning in my mind since she arrived. "Why are you telling me this now?" After all this time, Madison's face crumpled and she started crying. Real tears this time streaming down her face. "Kyle left me when he found out I was pregnant," she said. "He told me it was not his problem. I have been doing this alone for 6 months, Beaumont. I am drowning." She launched into her story. She had lost her job claiming maternity discrimination. She was living with her mother in a cramped apartment, but her mother was an alcoholic, and it was not a stable environment for a baby. Medical bills were piling up because Jackson had reflux issues. She had applied for government assistance, but the process was taking months. Kyle had moved to New York and cut off all contact. She said, "I have nobody else to turn to, Beaumont. You were always the good guy, the one who cared." Then she pulled a document out of her bag. It was a paternity acknowledgement form. She slid it across the coffee table toward me. "I just need you to sign this," she said. "You do not have to be involved if you do not want to. But I need financial help. I cannot do this alone anymore." I sat there staring at that form, my thoughts spinning out of control. Part of me wanted to throw her out immediately to tell her she was a liar and slam the door in her face. But another part of me, the part that still remembered loving her, wondered what if. What if I was wrong about the timeline? What if the math somehow worked out? What if I really did have a son out there? I looked at baby Jackson, so innocent and small, sleeping peacefully in his carrier. A wave of guilt washed over me. What kind of man would I be if I abandoned my own child? But the logical part of my brain was screaming that this did not add up. The dates were wrong. The story had holes. Madison stood up suddenly and said, "I will leave him here tonight so you can bond. I will pick him up tomorrow." I jumped to my feet. Wait, what? No. But she was already moving toward the door, setting the baby carrier down on my floor. "Just one night," she pleaded. "Please, I have not slept in days. I need rest." Before I could stop her, she was out the door and gone. I stood there alone with a 6-month-old baby, completely and utterly panicked. Jackson woke up 20 minutes later and started crying. I had zero experience with babies. None. I tried everything I could think of. I rocked him. I sang to him badly. I walked around my apartment bouncing him gently. Nothing worked. The diaper change was a disaster. I had to pull up a YouTube tutorial just to figure out how to do it properly. Madison had left one bottle of formula with instructions so unclear I could barely decipher them. At 11 at night, I called Trevor in desperation. "Dude, I need help. Now." He showed up 30 minutes later, equally clueless, but willing to try. We spent the next 3 hours tag-teaming, trying every trick we could find online to soothe the baby. Finally, at 2 in the morning, Jackson fell asleep. I collapsed on the floor, exhausted, and questioning every decision I had made that night. While Jackson slept, I sat there staring at him in the dim light. I took photos of him and sent them to my mom, asking her to send me my own baby pictures for comparison. When they came through, I studied them side by side. The features did not match. His nose was shaped differently. His hair was a lighter shade of brown. I opened my laptop and started searching. Gestation periods, pregnancy dating, how to calculate conception dates. If Jackson was 6 months old now in October, he would have been born around April. That meant conception would have been around July of the previous year. But Madison and I broke up in March 2.5 years ago. The math did not work. It did not work at all. Unless Madison had gotten pregnant right after leaving me. With Kyle. The realization hit me like a freight train. She was lying to me. This was Kyle's baby, and she was trying to trick me into taking responsibility for it. Madison showed up the next morning at 8, looking refreshed and well-rested. She smiled at me and asked thanks for watching him. Did you two bond? I was running on 2 hours of sleep, fueled by anger and coffee. I said, "We need to talk. Now." I laid it all out for her. The timeline, the math, the inconsistencies in her story. "This baby is not mine, Madison. Stop lying." Her expression changed instantly. The soft, vulnerable look vanished, replaced by defensiveness. "You are trying to weasel out of responsibility," she snapped. I did the math too. It is definitely possible. I stood my ground. "Then let us do a DNA test. Right now." She hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. "That is expensive," she said. "Unnecessary." "If you are so sure he is mine," I replied, "then prove it." Madison's voice rose. "You are being cruel. This is your son." But I had had enough. My patience, already stretched thin from a sleepless night, finally snapped. "Tell me the truth, Madison. Is this Kyle's baby?" The silence that followed was deafening. She looked away, tears filling her eyes again, but these were different tears. These were the tears of someone who had been caught. Finally, she whispered, "Kyle will not help. He abandoned us. So this is Kyle's baby." I said, my voice flat. She tried to backtrack. "But you were always better than him. More stable. I thought maybe you would step up." I could not believe what I was hearing. "You tracked me down after 2.5 years to trick me into raising another man's child. You showed up at my door, lied to my face, and tried to manipulate me." I stood up, and for the first time in this entire nightmare, I felt completely clear-headed. "Get out," I said. "Now. Take your son and leave." Madison started pleading immediately. "Please, Beaumont. I am desperate. I have nowhere to go." I looked at her, this woman who had once meant everything to me, and felt nothing but resolve. "That is not my problem," I said. "You made your choices." She tried a different angle. "But you were always so kind, so understanding." I cut her off. "That person, the one who would have done anything for you, you destroyed him when you cheated with Kyle. You do not get to use my good nature against me now." She switched tactics again, this time using the baby. "What about Jackson? He is innocent in all this." I nodded. "You are right. He is innocent. And he deserves a mother who does not use him as a manipulation tool. I will give you two options. Leave now voluntarily, or I call the police for attempted fraud." Madison realized she had lost. She grabbed the baby carrier and real tears started flowing now, not the calculated crocodile tears from before. Before she reached the door, I said one more thing. "And Madison, lose my address. Lose my number. If you ever contact me again, I am filing a restraining order. Get help. For yourself and for your son. But not from me." She walked out and I locked the door behind her. I leaned against it, my heart pounding, but also feeling something I had not felt in a long time. I felt empowered. I had stood up for myself. I had not let guilt or manipulation win. For the first time in years, I felt truly in control of my own life. The moment Madison left, I started documenting everything. I wrote down the entire timeline, every detail of our conversations, every claim she had made. I took screenshots of old text messages that proved when we had broken up. I called my lawyer friend Sarah for advice. She told me I had done exactly the right thing by refusing to sign anything. "If Madison tries to take legal action for paternity, you can demand a DNA test immediately," Sarah explained. "Keep all evidence of her admission that Kyle is the father." I felt validated hearing that. I changed my apartment building's access code and informed the building manager that Madison was not allowed inside under any circumstances. I blocked her number when she started sending texts full of apologies mixed with more desperate pleas for money. I told Trevor everything when we met for coffee the next day. "Man, I cannot believe she had the audacity," he said, shaking his head. "You handled it perfectly. Do not second-guess yourself." I called my mom and explained the whole situation. She was furious. "That girl after what she did to you?" But then her voice softened. "I am proud of you for standing your ground, sweetie. You have come so far." In my next therapy session, I shared the story with my therapist. She validated my actions completely. "You set healthy boundaries," she said. "That is real growth. The old you might have given in out of guilt." I posted something vague on social media without naming names. Sometimes people from your past resurface with ulterior motives. Trust your gut. The supportive comments from friends poured in. I felt surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me, and I realized how far I had come from the heartbroken guy I was 2 years ago. A week later, Madison sent an email. I had not thought to block her email address. The message was long, a confusing mix of apologies and more guilt trips. "I am sorry I lied, but I am still desperate. Kyle is threatening legal action if I pursue child support. My mom kicked me out. Can you at least help financially?" Just a few $100s, I forwarded the entire email to Sarah. She replied directly to Madison with a firm legal letter. "Cease all contact with my client or face harassment charges." A few days later, Madison sent one last text from a different number. "You will regret this." I took a screenshot, added it to my growing evidence file, and reported it to the police non-emergency line to create a paper trail. The officer I spoke with said I was smart to document everything. After the lawyer's letter and the police report, Madison went silent. 2 weeks passed with no contact. I cautiously checked with a mutual acquaintance and learned that Madison had moved back to California to live with her mother. Apparently, Kyle was now paying child support after she pursued legal channels. I felt an enormous wave of relief wash over me. I no longer had to look over my shoulder. I no longer felt anxious about surprise visits. That chapter of my life was truly finally closed. The first weekend after everything settled, I went hiking at my favorite trail outside Seattle. I stood at the summit breathing in the crisp autumn air and felt lighter than I had in weeks. I had protected myself. I had protected my peace. I had protected my future. I was no longer haunted by what-if scenarios. I was no longer a victim of someone else's chaos. I texted Trevor from the mountaintop. "I am good, man. Really good." He texted back immediately. "Proud of you, brother." Looking at my life with fresh eyes, I felt a new appreciation for everything I had built. My apartment was my space, my sanctuary, somewhere I felt safe and at peace. My job was stable and fulfilling, something I had earned through my own hard work. My friends were loyal, supportive, and genuine. The healing journey I had been on for 2.5 years was real and hard-earned, and worth every difficult moment. I realized that Madison's reappearance had actually been a gift, though not the kind she intended. It was a test, and I had passed. I had proved to myself that I wasn't the same man she had left broken. I was stronger, wiser, and far more self-assured. Months passed, and life settled into a comfortable rhythm again. I continued going to therapy, working through the residual anger I felt about Madison's manipulation attempt. My therapist helped me reframe the entire experience. "She showed you who she really is," my therapist said. Twice. First with the cheating, now with the manipulation. Both times you survived. The second time you thrived. I started journaling about the experience, writing down my thoughts about who I used to be versus who I had become. The old me was a people pleaser, afraid of conflict, desperate to be loved and validated by others. The new me was self-respecting, capable of setting firm boundaries, and secure in my own self-worth. The trauma from Madison's betrayal had made me cautious, yes, but it had also made me stronger. I started dating again with a completely new perspective. I was more selective, more aware of red flags, more willing to walk away from situations that did not feel right. I met someone new named Natalie through my hiking group. We took things slowly, communicated openly about our pasts and what we were looking for. On our third date, I told her about the Madison situation. I wanted to be upfront about it. Natalie's response meant everything to me. "Thanks for trusting me with that," she said. "It shows your integrity." Our relationship developed naturally and healthily, without games or manipulation or hidden agendas. I finally understood what a genuine partnership was supposed to feel like. Trevor joked with me one night over beers. "Took a psycho ex to show you what you deserve, huh?" I laughed and agreed. Sometimes the worst experiences teach the best lessons. I spent a lot of time reflecting on Madison's manipulation tactics. Looking back with clarity, I could see them all so clearly now. The guilt, the urgency, the emotional appeals, the victim playing. She had counted on my kindness, on our history together, on my ingrained good guy nature. It was a classic manipulation playbook. I realized how many people fall for these same tactics, not just in romantic relationships, but with family, friends, and coworkers. There are people out there who weaponize your empathy, who use your compassion against you. The key lesson I learned was this: kindness without boundaries is self-destruction. You can be compassionate without being a doormat. You can care about someone's struggles without making them your responsibility. Madison's problems were real, I am sure of that, but her solutions were unethical and unfair. It was not my job to rescue her from the consequences of her own choices. Eventually, I reached a point where I could genuinely forgive Madison. Not for her sake, but for my own peace of mind. Forgiveness did not mean what she did was okay. It did not mean she deserved a place in my life ever again. It meant I was releasing the anger that was only hurting me. I whispered it to myself one night while looking out at the Seattle skyline. "I forgive you for being broken enough to do what you did, but I will never forget who you showed me you are." I kept her blocked on everything. I maintained every boundary I had set. But when I thought about her now, I no longer felt rage or hurt. I felt nothing, just indifference. I realized that indifference, not hate, is the real opposite of love. Freedom came from letting go, not from seeking revenge. The biggest lesson I learned through all of this was about self-worth. Your self-worth cannot come from other people. When Madison first left me, my entire identity shattered because I had tied my value to being loved by her. When she reappeared with her lies and manipulation, my old instinct was to prove my worth by helping her by being the good guy who stepped up. But the new version of me understood something crucial. My worth is inherent, not earned. I do not need to rescue people to matter. I do not need to be chosen to be valuable. My worth exists independent of anyone's opinion of me. This knowledge, this deep understanding, was what made saying no to Madison possible. Not because I did not care about her situation, but because I cared about myself more. My entire life philosophy shifted to prioritize peace above almost everything else. Peace is not passive. It is active. It requires setting boundaries, having hard conversations, and sometimes disappointing people who expect you to sacrifice yourself for them. My peace had come from years of hard work, therapy sessions, self-reflection, rebuilding my life brick by brick. I was not about to let anyone destroy it, not even with the most heartbreaking sob story. Some people called me selfish for protecting myself. I learned to let them. Their opinion was not my burden to carry. Peace became the foundation for everything else in my life. Joy, love, success, personal growth. Without peace, none of those other things mattered. Madison had offered me chaos disguised as need. I chose peace instead. Today, my life is full in ways I never imagined during those dark months after the breakup. My career is thriving. My relationship with Natalie is growing deeper every day. I still hike every weekend, still take photographs of the mountains, and the water, still play guitar badly, but with enthusiasm. My relationships with my family have healed and strengthened. My friendships are richer and more meaningful. I am no longer looking backward, dwelling on past hurts or what might have been. The future feels bright and open and entirely mine to write. Sometimes the people who hurt us most come back into our lives not to make amends, but to take even more from us. The question is never whether they deserve another chance. The question is whether you deserve to protect the peace you have worked so hard to build. I chose me. I chose my peace. I chose my future. And I would make that choice again every single time without hesitation or regret. What would you choose? Drop your answer in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to protect yourself, even from people you once loved. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope you find the courage to choose your own peace, whatever that looks like for you. Take care of yourselves out there.